It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, the room is dark, and your face is lit up by the one light source that has personally ruined more nights of sleep than anything else in human history: your phone. You're looking at photos of someone who has decided they would rather not be looking at you anymore. And your chest actually hurts. Not in a poetic way. There is a real physical ache sitting behind your ribs, and some traitorous little part of your brain keeps whispering, just text them. Just one more time. It'll be fine. Here is the thing nobody tells you while it's happening. This exact misery, the obsessive thoughts and the ache and the 2am bargaining with yourself, is so old it is older than farming, older than writing, older than the wheel. So today, we're answering a question you'd assume has no answer at all. How did ancient humans deal with heartbreak? Back before breakup playlists, before pints of ice cream, before a single therapist existed anywhere on Earth. Because the answer is going to make you feel deeply, personally called out. Let's start with what is actually happening inside you right now, because it explains almost everything our ancestors did. When you get your heart broken, your brain does not process it the way it processes ordinary sadness. It processes it like withdrawal. A team led by the anthropologist Helen Fisher slid heartbroken people into a brain scanner. People who had just been dumped but were, by their own honest admission, still completely in love. And watched what lit up. It was not the gentle, weepy, sad part of the brain. It was the same reward circuitry that goes haywire in someone coming off cocaine. Biologically, your brain is not mourning. It is craving. The person who left is the drug, and you are in detox. And it gets so much worse, because in that study, people spent more than 85% of their waking hours thinking about the person who had dumped them. 85%. So if you have ever checked an ex's profile for the 9th time in an hour and thought, what is wrong with me? The answer is nothing. You are simply running software that is at least a few 100,000 years old. We call it doom scrolling an ex. Your ancestors had no profiles to check, but that craving, that desperate pull toward one specific person. Completely identical. And that craving is about to explain a genuinely bizarre thing your body is physically capable of doing. Here's the part that sounds made up. You know how people say someone died of a broken heart, and you assume it's just a dramatic figure of speech? It is not. It is a documented medical condition. Doctors in Japan first described it, and they named it after what the damaged organ looks like on a scan. They called it takotsubo, which is the word for a clay pot used to trap octopuses. Under a sudden flood of stress hormones, from grief, from a breakup, from devastating news, the heart muscle can actually balloon outward into the shape of that little octopus pot and stop pumping the way it should. It looks so much like a heart attack that hospitals regularly mistake it for one. People get admitted. People get monitored. In some cases, it is fatal. So when your great-aunt warned you that heartbreak could land you in the hospital, your great-aunt was, very annoyingly, basically a cardiologist. The phrase, a broken heart, is not some metaphor your species invented to be theatrical. It is a literal description of a thing your chest can physically do. Which raises an obvious and slightly terrifying question. If heartbreak can wreck a modern human who has hospitals and medication standing by, what on earth did it do to someone 40,000 years ago with nothing but a cave and the people around them? And the answer is the most surprising part of this whole story, because here is where it stops being about us specifically. Heartbreak is not a human invention. It is not even close to one. The famous primatologist Jane Goodall watched it happen with her own eyes. A young chimpanzee named Flint lost his mother, Flo, and afterward he stopped eating, pulled away from everyone, returned again and again to the empty nest where the two of them used to sleep. And within a few weeks, he was dead. Not from injury, from loss. An orca named Tahlequah carried the body of her dead calf through the open ocean for 17 days and 1,000 miles, refusing to let it go. Elephants stand over the bones of their dead and touch them gently with their trunks, returning to them for years. This is not sentimental nonsense. This is the fossil record of feeling, and it runs millions of years deeper than our species does. Which means that by the time actual ancient humans showed up, heartbreak was already old. And they did precisely what you would expect, because it is precisely what you still do. They grieved, and they grieved together. In a cave called Shanidar, in the mountains of Iraqi Kurdistan, archaeologists found Neanderthals, who were not even our own species, deliberately buried in the same spot. Over and over, more than 70,000 years ago, bodies placed with obvious care, in a place the living kept coming back to. You do not dig a grave for someone you didn't love. You do not return again and again to a spot to remember someone you've forgotten. So when you build a little shrine out of old photos on your phone, or you can't make yourself delete the messages, or you keep the hoodie because it still smells faintly like them, you are doing the Shanidar thing. You are 70,000 years of behavior wrapped in a hoodie. We just call it not being ready yet. So, how did they actually get through it with no therapy and no ice cream and no one to text? The same way the chimps and the elephants and the orcas do it, together, surrounded, not alone. There was no lying in a dark room by yourself because there was no separate room and there was no by yourself. You grieved out in the open, at the fire, in front of everybody, and the thing is, everybody had already been there themselves. The breakup playlist you put on at full volume to really feel your feelings? That is a lament, and humans have been singing sad songs over lost love for as long as we can find any evidence of singing at all. Crying to your friends for the 10th time about the same person who is never coming back? That is not you being exhausting. That is the oldest form of therapy on the planet, and it works for the simple reason that it has always worked. The one and only thing ancient humans had that you are accidentally missing at 2 a.m., alone in the dark with a glowing phone, is other people in the room with you. This video looks at anthropological and archaeological research for educational purposes, and modern hunter-gatherer and primate observations are used as comparative models to understand ancient human behavior, not as definitive proof of exactly how every ancient human grieved across all the different time periods and places they lived. But the through line here is genuinely hard to miss. Remember that ache sitting behind your ribs? The one that felt far too physical to be just sadness? Now you know it is real. It has a name. It is shaped like a little octopus pot, and it has been breaking open inside living creatures for millions of years before you ever got your turn. You are not broken. You are not crazy for feeling like this thing might actually kill you. You are just the latest person to be holding on to something you weren't ready to put down, standing in a line of mourners that stretches all the way back past the Neanderthals. So put the phone down, do not text them, and go find someone to sit beside at the fire. That part, at least, still works exactly the way it always has.